The phone rings at 9:14 in the morning. The screen says Medicare, not a random number, not an 800 number you don't recognize. It says Medicare spelled out the way it would if the real agency were calling. A woman named Carol picks up. She's 71, she lives outside Tulsa, and she has had the same Medicare card in her wallet since she turned 65. The voice on the other end says her name correctly. It says she's due for a new plastic chip-enabled Medicare card because the old paper cards are being phased out this year. All they need is her Medicare number to confirm she's still at the same address so the new card doesn't get lost in the mail. Carol reads it off the card sitting right there in her purse. The call lasts 90 seconds. She hangs up feeling like she did something responsible. She has no idea that in the next few weeks, someone 2 states away is going to bill Medicare more than $11,000 for a motorized wheelchair Carol never asked for, never received, and never needed. That call took less time than it took you to read this paragraph. And I want to tell you plainly, before we go any further, Medicare will never call you to verify your number, confirm your address, or offer you a new card. Not once, not ever. If you remember nothing else from the next few minutes, remember that one sentence because it is the single fact that would have stopped Carol's phone from ever being a weapon against her. I'm Henry Collins. If you're new to this channel, hit subscribe now. Every week I break down exactly how these scams work and exactly what to do instead, in plain language, with real phone numbers you can actually call. Today I want to walk you through the Medicare phone scam specifically, because it is quietly one of the most damaging things happening to people over 60 in this country right now, and almost nobody explains it the way I'm about to. Here's the shape of the problem before we get into the details. Phone scams produce the highest median individual loss of any method scammers use to reach older adults, over $2,000 per incident according to federal fraud data. Government impersonation scams specifically, the ones where someone claims to be calling from an agency you trust, have seen the number of large loss reports from older adults multiply more than 4-fold since 2020. And the losses over $100,000 in that same window went up nearly 8-fold. This isn't a handful of unlucky people. This is a coordinated, growing industry built entirely on one thing: getting you to say your Medicare number out loud to a stranger. So let's talk about why your Medicare number specifically is worth so much to a criminal, because I don't think most people understand this part. And once you do, the rest of what I'm going to tell you will make a lot more sense. Your Medicare number is not like a loyalty card number. It is a billing key. Whoever holds it can submit claims to the federal government for medical equipment, tests, and procedures, and get paid directly by Medicare, often within weeks. A scammer doesn't need your bank account to steal from you through Medicare. They need your 11-character Medicare number and a fake company willing to submit paperwork. That's the entire operation. They bill for a knee brace you never got, a genetic test you never took, a home visit that never happened. The money doesn't come out of your pocket in that moment. It comes out of the Medicare trust fund, which every one of us pays into, but you pay for it in a slower, uglier way. Your benefits can get flagged for a review. Legitimate future claims can get denied because the system now sees excessive use. And if you ever actually need that wheelchair, that test, that piece of equipment, you may find your record already shows you received one this year. Medicare loses an estimated $60 billion a year to fraud and improper payments, and a meaningful share of that starts with exactly the kind of call Carol got. Let me walk you through what these calls actually sound like right now, because they've gotten sharper than the version most people picture in their heads. The first version is the one Carol got, the new card scam. The caller says your Medicare card is being replaced, sometimes with a chip, sometimes described as a smart card, sometimes just a plastic upgrade from the old paper version. There is no such upgrade happening. Medicare cards have never expired, and if a replacement is ever needed, it comes free by mail, without you giving anyone your number over the phone to confirm it. The second version is the refund call, and this one is spreading fast in 2026 specifically because it's riding on a real policy change. There is a genuine new cap on out-of-pocket prescription drug costs under Part D this year. Scammers know that, so they call and say you're owed a refund because you overpaid before the cap kicked in, and all they need is your bank routing and account number to direct deposit the money. There is no Medicare refund department. Medicare does not process refunds by phone ever for any reason, and it never needs your banking information to give you money you're actually owed. The third version is the free equipment call. Someone offers you a back brace, a knee brace, a diabetic monitor, a mobility scooter at no cost to you because Medicare covers everything. They just need your number to check eligibility. Real medical suppliers do not cold call you. They fill orders based on a prescription your own doctor already wrote. If a stranger on the phone is offering you free medical equipment before your doctor has ever mentioned it, that is not customer service. That is theft in progress. The fourth version is newer, and it's the one that genuinely unsettles me. It uses artificial intelligence to clone a voice. Sometimes the voice of an actual Medicare representative, sometimes a voice built to sound authoritative and calm on purpose. And in some reported cases, scammers have used a few seconds of audio scraped from a family member's voicemail greeting or a video posted online to make a call feel personal in a way that used to be impossible. Federal fraud trackers reported hundreds of millions of dollars in AI-related fraud losses last year alone, with a meaningful share of it aimed specifically at older adults. The technology to fake a trustworthy voice on the other end of the line is not science fiction anymore. It's available, it's cheap, and it's already being used against people watching this video's parents and grandparents. And the fifth version, which spikes every single fall, is the open enrollment call. Between October 15th and December 7th, when millions of Americans are genuinely comparing Medicare plans, call centers ramp up, posing as Medicare agents, eligibility specialists, or CMS verification officers. They tell you your current plan is ending, and you need to act immediately or lose coverage. Medicare Advantage? Plans are not allowed to cold call you unless you've already given them permission or reached out first. If your plan is actually changing, you get an official written notice in September, called the Annual Notice of Change, mailed to your home. A phone call is never the first place you hear about a real coverage change. I want to add a sixth version, because I've been getting more and more comments about it since I covered caller ID spoofing in an earlier video on the fake bank fraud alert call. This one doesn't even bother with a live person at first. It's a robocall, or increasingly an AI-generated voice, close enough to human that most people don't question it in the first 5 seconds. It says something like, "This is an automated message from the Medicare Benefits Center regarding your 2026 eligibility. Press 1 to speak with a representative." The moment you press 1, you're transferred to a live scammer who now knows you engaged with the message, which their systems log in plain language as what they call a live one, someone worth calling back again and again because you responded once. I personally think this is the cruelest version of all of them, because it turns your own caution, the fact that you picked up to see what it was about, into the very signal that gets you targeted harder. Notice the pattern running through all 6 of these. Every single one starts with the caller creating urgency and ends with them asking for either your Medicare number or your bank information. That's not a coincidence. That's the entire design of the call. Strip away the costume, the new card, the refund, the free brace, the clone voice, the enrollment deadline, and what's left underneath every version is the same 2 requests. Give me your number or give me your money. Once you can see that skeleton underneath the costume, you stop needing to memorize every version of the scam because you'll recognize the shape of it no matter what name they put on it next year. Here's a detail worth knowing about how they even get your number in the first place, because a lot of people assume they were specifically singled out, and that's rarely how it works. Scammers buy lists, sometimes from old data breaches, sometimes scraped from public records, sometimes from a free health screening booth at a county fair or senior center where someone innocently wrote down their name and phone number for a raffle. Those lists get sold and resold, and by the time your number is on one, dozens of different operations are calling it with dozens of different scripts, testing to see which one gets a response. That's why you might get a new card call in March and a refund call in July from 2 completely unrelated criminal operations. It's not one group tracking you specifically. It's an entire economy of buyers and sellers treating your phone number as a commodity, the same way a mailing list gets sold to catalog companies, except the product being sold is your trust. I want to give you the 3 sentences that end almost any version of this call in under 10 seconds, because knowing what to say matters just as much as knowing what to watch for. Sentence 1, I don't give personal information to anyone who calls me. I'll contact Medicare directly if I need to. Say it and hang up. You don't owe a scammer an explanation, and you don't owe them politeness either. Sentence 2, if they push back or claim urgency, if this is real, it'll be in writing. Send it in the mail. Genuine agencies communicate major changes through the mail or through your own secure My Medicare online account. They do not race against a clock on a phone call. Sentence 3, if they claim to already know personal details about you to seem legitimate. That doesn't prove who you are, it just proves you found that information somewhere. Scammers frequently already have pieces of your name, your city, even a partial number, scraped from data breaches or bought off lists. Knowing a fact about you is not the same as being who they claim to be. Let me tell you what happened after Carol's call, because the aftermath is the part most videos skip, and it's the part that actually teaches you something. 3 weeks after that 90-second phone call, Carol got a letter in the mail, not from a scammer, but from her real Medicare Summary Notice, the statement that lists every claim paid out under her number in the last few months. On it was a charge for a power wheelchair, billed at $11,400, delivered to an address in a different city she'd never lived in. Carol had never ordered a wheelchair. She'd never spoken to anyone about one beyond that single call about a new card. She called her daughter first, panicking, convinced she was somehow responsible for $11,000 she'd have to pay back. She was not, but she spent the next 4 months on the phone with Medicare's fraud line, a benefits integrity contractor, and eventually her local senior Medicare patrol office, walking through the same story over and over, providing the same date and time of the same 90-second call, before the fraudulent claim was formally reversed and her Medicare number was flagged for extra scrutiny going forward. It never cost Carol $1 out of pocket, but it cost her 4 months, several sleepless weeks, and the quiet fear that she'd let a stranger use her name to steal from a system her whole family depends on. That's the piece I want you to sit with. This isn't only a story about money leaving your bank account. Sometimes the damage is your identity moving through the medical system without you, and you spending months proving it wasn't you. And Carol's case isn't rare or unusual, even though it might sound extreme. The overall estimate for what Medicare loses each year to fraud, waste, and abuse runs into the tens of billions of dollars, and improper payments alone, the ones that get flagged after the fact, the way Carol's wheelchair claim eventually was, topped $30 billion in a single recent fiscal year. Health-related scams targeting consumers directly, separate from the billing fraud itself, cost real people tens of millions more in reported losses, and that number is almost certainly a fraction of the true total, because plenty of people either never realized they were scammed or feel too embarrassed to report it. I've heard from viewers who told me they didn't report a suspicious call for weeks because they felt foolish for having answered the phone in the first place. There is nothing foolish about answering your own phone. The only mistake in that entire chain of events is the one the scammer is counting on you to make next. So let's talk about exactly what to do in order, because I don't want to leave you with fear and no action. Fear without action is just stress. Action is protection. Step 1, treat your Medicare number exactly like a credit card number, because functionally, that's what it is. Don't say it out loud to anyone who calls you, texts you, or emails you first. If you gave your Medicare number to your own doctor's office last year, that's fine. That relationship already exists. A stranger calling cold does not get that same trust, no matter how official they sound. Step 2, don't answer calls from numbers you don't recognize during this time of year in particular. Let them go to voicemail. A real callback from a real agency will leave a message and a legitimate number you can verify independently, not the number that shows up on your caller ID, because that number can be faked through something called spoofing, where a screen can display Medicare or Social Security Administration, even though the call is coming from nowhere near either agency. Step 3, if you already gave out your Medicare number or you suspect you might have, don't sit on it out of embarrassment. Call 1-800-MEDICARE, that's 1-800-633-4227, and tell them exactly what happened. Ask them to review your Medicare Summary Notice for any claims you don't recognize. You can also set up a free account at medicare.gov to check your claims yourself at any time, rather than waiting for the paper statement to arrive every few months. Step 4, contact your local senior Medicare patrol. This is a federally funded program that exists for exactly this purpose, helping Medicare beneficiaries detect and report fraud for free with no judgment. The national number is 1-877-808-2468, and they can connect you to the office in your own state. I want to say this clearly because I hear it from viewers all the time. There is no shame in calling them. Scammers are professionals at this. Falling for one 90-second call doesn't mean you weren't careful. It means someone spent real time designing that call specifically to get past careful people. Step 5. If you want to report the fraud directly rather than just review it, the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General runs a dedicated fraud hotline, 1-800-HHS-TIPS. That's 1-800-447-8477. This is the number that actually opens an investigation into the people running these operations, not just corrects your individual account. Step 6, and this is the one almost nobody does. Read your Medicare Summary Notice when it arrives, every single time, even when nothing feels wrong. It comes roughly every 90 days for original Medicare. Most people glance at it and set it aside. That notice is the one document that would have caught Carol's wheelchair claim in week 1 instead of week 3, and it's sitting in a stack of mail right now for a lot of you watching this. Step 7, and I want to spend a moment on this one because it's the step that protects the people who don't watch channels like this one. If you have a parent, an aunt, an older neighbor who still uses a landline and still believes, reasonably, that an official sounding call deserves a real answer, sit with them for 10 minutes and tell them exactly one thing. Medicare will never call first, not the 6 versions I described. Not whatever 7th version shows up next year with a new name attached to the same 2 requests. Your number or your money. You don't need to explain spoofing or AI voice cloning to protect someone. You need to hand them one sentence they can use in 10 seconds without having to think under pressure, and then let that sentence do the work you can't do for them every time their phone rings. And if you're in the middle of dealing with a suspicious call for yourself or a family member right now, and you're not sure whether it was legitimate, the Medicare Drug Integrity Contractor line, 1-8777-SAFERX. That's 1-8777-7233379. Specifically handles suspected fraud tied to Part D drug plans and drug coverage refund claims, separate from the general fraud. Line. Keep both numbers somewhere you'll actually find them. A sticky note by the phone works better than a number saved in a contacts app. You'll forget to check mid-call. I get comments after almost every video I make asking whether it's worth reporting a call if you didn't actually lose anything, if you just hung up and moved on. Comment down below if that's happened to you, because I want you to see how common it actually is when you all share it. Reporting the number itself matters even when no money changed hands, because every report helps investigators build the pattern that eventually shuts an operation down. You not losing anything doesn't mean the next person on their list won't. I want to leave you with one more thing, because I think it explains why this particular scam works so well on exactly the generation watching this video right now. You grew up in a world where a government agency calling your house was a serious formal event, not something to be suspicious of, but something to take seriously and respond to properly. That instinct respecting an official-sounding call used to be exactly the right instinct to have. Scammers didn't have to convince you government agencies are trustworthy. You already believed that correctly your whole life. What they had to do was borrow that trust for 90 seconds and point it at themselves. That's not a flaw in you. That's a targeted exploitation of something that used to be a completely reasonable way to move through the world. The fix isn't becoming a suspicious, guarded person who trusts nothing. The fix is one specific piece of knowledge. The real Medicare will never call you first, will never ask you to confirm your number, and will never need your bank details to give you money you're owed. Everything else about how you were raised to treat official calls can stay exactly the way it is. I'm Henry Collins. Thank you for listening.